We do have a poll essentially about Tennessee's probably most important unit, and that is the defensive backfield. I mean, they have to get better there. So let's go through that right now. And it's on offthehooksports.com. And it's a secondary breakdown. So, Josh, I asked two questions of everybody that contributes to the website. You, Jimmy Himes, John Adams didn't respond, but that's not a shock.
The Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's right. Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think he's going to the Knoxville Hall of Fame tonight.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. That's the intel I have.
He didn't mention it. All right. Is it the Knoxville Sports Hall of Fame or Sports Writers Hall of Fame?
The Greater Knoxville Sports Hall of Fame. Grant Williams, the guest speaker this year. Big time.
Oh, nice.
Went from signing the Alien and Sedition Acts as president to going into the Hall of Fame as a journalist. Gotta love his transition over 200 years.
All right. So, Josh, I asked this question, and that was the most improved ball in the defensive backfield, and who will we say is the best overall? So, who did you go with?
Most improved, I went Kamal Hadden. He has the same talent we discussed a year ago. He's had to battle injuries. He did last year. He has had to recently again. That was part of my holdup. But last year didn't go how he hoped. The South Carolina game was a disaster, and I think that caused his stock to drop. He kind of saw his name leave conversations talking about the corner position this year in the defensive backfield, but he still has a lot of ability. So if healthy, most improved, I think, will be Kamal Hadden.
Okay, if you can add his picks in there, I just texted them to you because I forgot Josh after our 3:45 a.m. production meeting. We got everybody up there but Josh. So if you see that, don't think I was trying to stick it to you. All right, so I'll tell you who I went with. Jimmy Himes went with most improved. He said either Christian Charles or Jordan Thomas. And then you have Fred White, who knows a little bit about these cats. And he said Danico Slaughter, to Marion McDonald. And I'm trying to think if I've left anybody out. Now let's get to Caleb Calhoun. Who were your two?
Well, I do have to point out that since you mentioned Kamal Hadden, I spoke with Jaru by text earlier today because we're teasing this now. Dave and I are going to do a How You Living segment in the coming weeks about athletes who did stuff stupid the previous week's games. And the first thing Jaru thought of was like when Kamal Hadden talked all that trash against South Carolina and then didn't make a single stop.
Fair. By the way, that was not the concept of that bit at all, but we'll go with that. Go ahead. Who are your guys?
But my guys I'm actually with Fred White, and I know I said I had the least confidence in him on the last segment, but I do think Danico Slaughter will end up being the most improved. I just said least confidence because I can't be sure about that. But the best, I think, is Wesley Walker. And Josh, I don't know if you know this. I shocked Jimmy Hyams with this stat last week. Did you know Wesley Walker has the highest PFF grade of any returning safety in the SEC?
I did know that. Yes. I was a little confused because I feel like he should have had to play more there to be eligible for it. But yes, I did know that. I thought last year he would make a big impact on Tennessee's defense and just didn't get the snaps that I felt like he deserved, and still continue to keep that feeling at the end of the season. So that's a good pick, I think, with Walker, because he came in with a lot of experience at Georgia Tech. I recognize it's Georgia Tech, but more experience and more success probably than a number of his teammates.
Telling you guys, I see the flashes from Danico Slaughter, the way he flips his hips and his explosiveness. And I remember Josh saying to me one time, man, I've never been around anybody that has an eye for football like you do. And I said, thank you, Josh. You try very hard.
Well, that's true, but you didn't see Al Wilson standing behind you when I said that. So I said, right, if you could please step aside. I was trying to have a conversation here.
And then Al goes, bleep you both, get out of the bleeping way.
Yeah. I don't think Al needs me to move anybody for him, to be clear. And I stepped over, but Danico was also my pick for best. So most improved was Kamal Hadden, and then Danico was my pick for best defensive back for the Vols this fall.
Yeah, look at him. He didn't mention it until he heard what I went with.
I'm siding with our message board. I wrote a lot on my previous blog buying into Kamal Hadden, and then I watched him last year, and I'm like, Sometimes I get to a point where like I've seen enough. There's no possible way you can be good.
It's called the Danny White syndrome. For those that are too young, it has nothing to do with the athletic director. It's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys in the 80s for 8 years. Josh?
Oh, y'all stuck with him for 8 years?
Yes.
Or any Dallas Cowboy quarterback for the last 25 to 30.
Yeah.
Tony Romo wasn't bad.
Gary Hogaboom, Steve Pallure. Anybody remember those names on the message board? If you remember those names, then you're a sad Cowboys fan. Babe Laufenberg.
Yeah, Tony Romo was good. Dak's a solid quarterback, but I know that the franchise is looking for more results.
Yeah, Tony's good. Tony
Mm-hmm.
Romo is great if you need somebody to practice their Heimlich maneuver because he's choking all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty good.
First of all, he did convert the pass to Des Bryant. That was a catch. That was a beautiful throw. It's not his fault that he got robbed on that play.
I'm just telling you, when I lift in the morning, I throw high heat, and that was pretty good. Josh has smiled at least 3 of my jokes, so I'll take that. We can just end the show right now, but we're not going to. Josh, you're on from noon to 3 on the Sports Animal. Follow him at Josh_Ward. Great stuff as always. I was really impressed with that piece, and thank you so much. We love you being a part of what we do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. There were more players to try to consider than if you would ask me to do this a year ago or definitely 2 years ago. You know, when Josh Heupel said the roster is dramatically different, I do think you could go 11 through 20 and still talk about high-impact players. So that tells you the potential there, but some pieces need to come together. Some of them are question marks, and they need to be answered pretty early in the season.
You know what's funny? Jalen Hyatt doesn't make this list a year ago.
I don't think so. No. And that's an example. And this was brought up to us on the radio this week. I mean, it's true, and I think we talked about it earlier in the summer, but it's worth remembering. A year ago, there was a lot of excitement about how good Darnell Wright could be. But a year ago, nobody was saying he might be the best tackle in the country. He might be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. That wasn't the conversation a year ago. He went out and had the season that he did. So to Caleb's point about John Campbell Jr., a lot of talk about how well he's done since he arrived. Jacob Warren was talking him up earlier this week. So, yeah, there will be some players that by the end of the season we say, you know what, did more than we expected.
Yeah, I will say this from a very good source. I had a guy tell me that Darnell Wright was super special before the season last year. So I was a little bit early on that bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
The guy he picked this year, just for the record, Dylan Sampson, to take that next huge monster leap.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, right. Also, Darnell was a former 5-star guy who had been a solid player the year before, and his upside was obvious. He was such an important player for the team last year, but he still had to prove it. Just like Jalen Hyatt still had to prove that he could be a big, consistent touchdown scorer, and boy, he proved that.
Okay, so Rocky Top Tom, hold on just a second, Caleb. Rocky Top Tom wants this question asked, so I'm going to go ahead and put it up. Aside from any quarterbacks, which current UT player do you pick to build a team around? 100 bonus points for picking a defenseman. You all just hit this one around, and he wanted Josh's answer before he leaves. I'm going to go ahead and steal the best one. It's Al Wilson.
Oh, this is all-time Tennessee player that you would build around.
Yes, I think. Well, it's going to be.
Yeah. It is now. Yeah, that makes more sense.
He literally says current, guys.
He says current?
Yeah. Which current UT player? Yeah.
Oh. Well, there's not one that's not on Josh's list.
Man, it really does feel like 98. If Al's on the team. How about that?
I thought it was all time. I tell you what.
I can't believe I didn't put Eric Berry on my impact list. Don't you think that he's going to
I didn't see current. Stop making fun of me. I would – okay, current player to build around I'm going to go offense, Cooper Mays, defense.
Amari Thomas.
Keenan Pili.
Okay.
Caleb? Fire.
Offense, Brew McCoy. I'm sorry, just a rare special weapon to me is Brew McCoy. That's and defense.
Josh has to get out.
Josh stole it from me, Amari Thomas. I'm with Josh on that.
Josh, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the game. We certainly appreciate it as always.
You got it. Thanks a lot, guys.
By the way, I was about to go with Doug Atkins, which he should have a huge year.
Atkins, yeah, he's a riser. I like a lot.
He really knows how to bring it.
Well,
off.
can Dylan Sampson beat out G. McKeever for the starting job at running back?
Thank you. I don't like either of you. Thank you, Josh.
Give the ball to Jamal.